Good evening, everyone. I do have 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Town of Pendleton's February Planning Commission meeting. If I could please have a roll call starting to my left. Cheryl.
Cheryl Remy Hunt,
Brad Valentine.
Kyle Ackland.
Tim Pritchard.
Carol Hannah, Jenny Sisson,
Andrew Holloway.
Thank you, Andrew. We do have a full quorum. If I could ask the board to review and approve the minutes on your drives.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second that.
Thank you, Brad. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thank you. Okay, we have no new business tonight. It's moving to old business. This is a continuation of the January meeting from LKQ, which stands for Like Kind Quality Midwest Incorporated. Rezoning the property at 5517 West State Road 38 from agricultural to light industrial. At the January meeting, we had asked for LKQ to go back and provide us some more information on elevations, pictures of their facilities, pictures from the highways, overpasses, and well, staff was going to review some other requirements at that time. So I'm going to start with Hannah for staff. We'll let LKQ do their presentation. The board will have questions during that time. And when we get through with that, then we'll open it up to the general public. Okay. Please bear with us when we do get to the general public. There's going to be a lot of the same comments from all of it. We want all of you to speak, but we don't have time for all of you to speak tonight. So if you do hear a comment about traffic or drainage and you want to be heard, you're more welcome to come to the podium and say, I agree with Mr. Smith on his comments about traffic or drainage. But it'll get way out of hand if we just keep hearing the same thing about drainage, traffic, etc. Okay. I do have some documents for people who wrote in letters, so we'll address it at that time, but it should be ample time to get done what we need. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so to recap, this is 2 parcels, 113 acres. This is kind of just pulled from the last presentation. And currently A1, which is large lot agriculture. This is part of the Southwest Quadrant Plan. So on the next slide there, a little further. Is it frozen? No. There we go. Sorry, so you can see that this is slated for residential and the Keystone District. Next slide, please. So with the new site plan, which I'll let Chris talk about a little bit more, the building moved off of 38 by a little bit, and that's going to be slated for future development of commercial and retail areas. As they said before, the building would be about 229,000 square feet, give or take. And the stone yard would be 70 acres. The detention would be on site on the west end with the tree line retained. And they would also need a approval from BZA for outdoor storage as well. So these are per PC comments last time. These are a few facilities that are near residential areas. Again, I'll let Chris speak to those a little bit more. And on the next slide, you'll see the renderings that were requested. Along the highway, we've got southbound looking southwest, as well as in the northbound lane, also looking the same direction, southwest. You can see the fence and the landscaping that will be installed per their site plan. So as far as our analysis goes, to the next one, thank you. The function of planning staff is to analyze the petition against our comprehensive plan, other approved relevant plans, ordinances, etc., as well as existing conditions or variances that are already upon the site. And we present facts and analysis. So based on that analysis, we have the following comments. Just again, reiterating that this is a part of the I-69 plan, and it is slated for different uses such as residential and part of our Keystone District. That section of the Keystone District is supposed to be retail and commercial that serves the larger portion on the northern half of 38. It also includes a portion of the conceptual 146th Street Extension project, which is also on that plan. Something not necessarily shown on that property, but nearby is the 67th Street Extension, which is on the property just to the north. And that's a project coming down from Anderson. So the lot does fit the size requirements for light industrial. That will require some coordination with NDOT as far as driveway cuts. They might have different or more stringent standards than we do. Our access management plan allows for 2 driveway cuts. Where those are would depend on NDOT. The parcels to the east and the west along 38 are zone general business. And the petitioner has policies in place with their company to meet the EPA standards for hazardous material disposal, recycling, and proposes to have all servicing of the cars take place within the building. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Any questions for me right now?
So on that first slide, you said that they would need a variance from the BZA, is that correct?
So the reason would kind of be contingent on if they get that. If they can't get that, they can't operate.
So in the light industrial, it says conditional use of automobile and vehicle storage. Is that what the variance is for?
Yes,
Because it also says no junk.
I guess it would be
Or
your
salvage.
yeah,
But-
salvage interpretation of junk.
Well, in the definitions of the UDO, it says inoperable vehicles are
Okay.
junk. So can we give a variance for?
Yeah, I think we can. It would just, yeah,
That's all.
okay.
Cheryl, right?
At this time.
Okay. Chris?
Thanks, you guys. I guess I'll kind of what Hannah highlighted in her presentation. You know, we did the, I guess, when we left here, we felt like there was 3
You
things.
might introduce yourself, Chris. A lot of people here didn't know who you were last time.
Okay, sorry, Chris Farrar, I'm with Woodside Capital. So I am the developer that works alongside LKQ. So we've developed plus or minus 12 of these across the country. Kind of kept you up from last time. So Indianapolis is a market that they have identified along with some others. And over the next, call it 5 to 7 years, their plan is to build these new facilities, closing some older ones, and kind of building this new, what I would call state-of-the-art facility. So in our search, we came across this site, and like I said, we can pull up the old presentation if that helps you guys. But as we left last time, there was 3 items that the Planning Commission asked of us, and so 1 being the updated elevations, 2 being the accommodating the out parcel, and then also showing neighboring residential. So I'm available. You tell me if you want to ask questions. I'm happy to answer questions. If we can go through the previous presentation for the folks that weren't here last time. I'm happy to walk through that.
Let's do that, Chris, please.
Okay. Do you have that?
Yep.
Yeah.
We have that on there. Should be in the Gaines property rezone file. And then it's the LKQ file.
Perfect.
Page you want us to-
I mean, this is just mainly about LKQ. So they're in the automobile recycling business. Like I said, rather than reading this slide, I would just recommend that everybody, you're more than welcome to go to their website. And it'll definitely expand on who they are and what they do. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. Same thing on their mission. As next slide. So sorry. As Tim mentioned, like kind quality, that's what it stands for. So to be clear, there's, LKQ kind of has 2 components of the business. One being the, what I would call the recycling side, and the one being the aftermarket manufacturing. So just to be clear, this particular project is not the aftermarket where, so essentially they also make replacement auto parts as well, whether it be a fender, a roof panel, you name it. And then the other side of the business is where this project, the recycling side, where they're coming in, buying vehicles and then disassembling those vehicles and then taking those parts and selling them as well. So that's kind of the two components of their business, hence the name Like Kind Quality. This kind of gives an overline of their timeline of the business and how it started, and where originally some folks that were in this business decided to get together, ultimately created a company, went out and acquired what I'm going to call mom and pop shops across the country, and ultimately combined those, and that's kind of where this is led today. They have multiple locations in a market like Indianapolis, and you'll see it on another slide. There's call it 5 to 6 locations, and in today's world it's all about logistics, and so combining those locations into one and being able to service one market from one location is much more efficient, hence this movement that they're doing. Kind of went through this already, their product overview. You can go to the next slide. This is just a picture of their footprint, so pretty much across the US. Next slide, please. So this talks about the dismantling. This is what would be done at this facility. So this is a good illustration of what you're going to see. This is the cars, that would come in, right? And ultimately, first thing that's done is, that everything's done on a handheld computer these days, right? So they put the car in, we're going to take off the tires, we're going to drain the fluids, we're going to remove the engine. All these fluids, whether it's gas, oil, radiator fluid, that's all recycled inside the building in a tank above ground, nothing's below ground. This all gets hauled off on a weekly basis. All the tires go into a trailer, those are hauled off. So, from an environmental standpoint, everything is contained within the building. So ultimately, after all those fluids, motors, everything's removed, you're left with the frame of a vehicle and some parts. So I think what's worth noting is that LKQ, their focus is on late model vehicles. So it's not your 1983 Chevy, although I wish everything was still built like an 83 Chevy, but they're not. So they're modern cars, and they're not just old, what I would say, vehicles that are just going to sit out in the yard and rust, right? So ultimately, they bring in these cars, take all the stuff I described off of it. They inventory the door panels, the fenders, you name it. That all kind of goes into, whether it's a crate, it goes into the rack space. And then what's left is what I'm going to call a frame of a vehicle. And then there may be a front right fender. There could be a roof panel, but there's probably not any seats or anything inside of it. And, whatever's left in there is what they consider to be non-combustible. And so whatever's left, I'm going to call it a frame, that goes out into the yard. And then ultimately, those are positioned, and we have some photos of that that'll show you what that looks like, but I call it an airport parking lot. Next slide. Environmental, I know that's a concern of a lot of folks, and completely get it. So, LKQ being a Fortune 300 company, publicly traded, they can't afford to have any mistakes. They know this, right? So everything they do is driven by, call it their green footprint. And so whether it's, the testing wells in the yard, whether it's recycling the fluids, everything they do is monitored by the EPA. They don't miss a beat. They can't afford to miss a beat. Next slide. This is just kind of talking, stuff that's on the website. Same thing here. This kind of talks about what I described earlier, the number of fluids that they're capturing each year. Next slide. So I know Tim already mentioned it. There's some concerns about, okay, with the runoff, what's going to happen into the yard, right? So you have these vehicles that go into the yard. It rains. There's a rain event. Where does that water go? So yes, ultimately that water is going into what we're going to call a detention or a retention pond, right? That ultimately outfalls out. At that retention pond or detention pond, there are testing wells. And every month, LKQ hires an outside third-party firm that comes in and takes test samples at that detention pond to make sure that there's not any issues with, any types of, call it environmental concerns, runoffs. So, I know that probably, I'm saying that and you're like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. But I can say in other facilities that we've done, we've just recently completed one in Denver, Colorado, and they've been there open now, taking set samples. Everything's working great. Salt Lake City, open one, no issues there. So it's a proven model that works, I guess is my point. And I understand people have doubts and I get that, but I can tell you that, we built these new facilities, same material that we put in the yard, same vehicles, same detention pond setup, same runoff, and they have not had any issues as far as environmental concerns. I think it's worth noting, scroll back up, there's just the last bullet point. I know, the folks that are around the immediate area are concerned, does it have noise, does it have smoke, does it have smell? I can tell you that that's not an issue, or that's not a point of concern. Everything that's done is done inside the facility. There's no smoke, there's no reason for it to be smoke or smell. Noise, I would say it's probably no different than a Jiffy Lube. Someone's changing oil or discount tire, getting new tires. But like I said, that's all within the facility. These are just some achievements that they're on the website. We can go to the next slide. Corporate citizenship. I think this is worth talking about. I know they mentioned it last time, but LKQ, they're not, how do I say it? We're not just this big bad developer that comes into town and says, hey, this is great, and then just kind of disappears and we do our own thing. And by the way, I'm not directly with LKQ, but I've done enough with them where I'll just go ahead and I'll wear the badge, right? So I can say this, they have gone into communities, larger ones similar to Denver, smaller ones outside of Salt Lake, outside of Phoenix, and the relationship that they have with the local communities is important to them. So whether it's through vocational programs through the high school, whether it's doing trainings with the fire department, providing local scholarships, working with local food banks, they do make a point to try to be part of the community, not just a company that has an address here and makes sales to other markets. So I do think that they truly try to be stewards and be part of it. But and so this is really just kind of highlighting some of those aspects of what they do. Next slide. This kind of goes back to what I talked about originally. There's some existing locations in the what I would call the state of Indiana. So this particular location will create, let's call it 80 plus jobs. It'll, have, I would say, allow time for that to ramp up. Could almost be probably 100. This gives you an idea of, what those wages are going to look like. Some of these older locations. So if you were to, get on Google and, Google LKQ and, pick the location, you'll probably look at something and say, man, that's not what I want in my town. And I get that. And neither does LKQ. And that's why they're closing up some of these facilities to create these, new state-of-the-art facilities. So like I said, I mentioned it, but I think, I'm not sure, Randy Smith can probably better answer that. I think he's on Zoom, but either way, they are going to close down a few of these facilities. And I think some of the employees would probably come this way, but a majority of those jobs would be new jobs. Next slide. Traffic impact. So I like environmental concerns. I know traffic is a concern. So we tried to do an analysis. Okay, you've got 113 acres located along State Road 38 and the interstate. What are the options for this property, right? We understand that it's planned residential. So, let's compare what we do versus what a residential neighborhood would do. And I think it's worth noting that what we do is a little bit different than what I would call your normal industrial product, right? So Amazon comes in, they're going to build, call it on 113 acres, at least 1 million square feet, if not more. Truck traffic is going to be significantly higher, right? LKQ is a little bit different in the fact that, they're from a tractor trailer standpoint, you're talking, 5 a day, 2 of them, which are probably going to be at night. There will, they'll obviously have deliveries just like any regular business would, but then, from a delivery box truck. So when I say delivery box truck, I'm talking about like the Isuzus that you see running around, maybe going to O'Reilly Auto Parts or to a car dealership. That's what I'm describing there as far as 25. And then obviously they're employees. So, add those all together. Yes, it's traffic, but is it as much as you would have versus putting, let's call it 100 residential homes? That's probably a conservative number on 100 acres. I think there'd probably be 200 residential homes. So, these are just some statistics. Like I said, you can look, are they wrong? Are they right? I'm not sure, but residents, 200 trips per day, whether it's visitors, lawn care, delivery service. So it's just a comparison, take it for what it's worth. But I can say that, as an industrial developer that's seen projects all across the US, LKQ's particular use, some people say we're crazy. Why would you buy 113 acres and only build a 200,000 square foot building? But that's their model and that's what they do. And so as a result of it, we do typically, the communities like to see the fact that we're not having a heavy impact on traffic. Coming into this, we understood that traffic was a major concern, and I get that. And so I think given the location of the property, and we'll see it here on the next slide, LKQ's not, their trucks aren't going to have any business coming to the side of the town. There's no reason for them to. So, they're isolated on that side of 69. And I feel like that checks a big box for the community. And, hopefully it does. I'm not sure. But if you go to the next slide, we'll compare this. This kind of goes into the Amazon comparison, right? So this is, like I said, 1.4 million square feet. That's probably about right for a site this size. And as you can see, the numbers are, call it 2-3x higher than what LKQ would do. Go to the next slide. So this is what I was just referring to as far as our location. So where the LKQ logo is, that's obviously the site. From a truck traffic standpoint, literally outside of maybe one of those Isuzu trucks that I described having to drive into town to service a local auto parts store or a car dealership, I literally see no reason ever why any type of traffic from LKQ would be coming to town besides maybe an employee trying to go get lunch. So like I said, I tried to highlight, this is literally the traffic pattern of where they would go. So on and off ramps, through the roundabouts. I know that the existing Tractor Supply has, tractor trailers coming through there. So, I don't feel that LKQ would be a huge impact on that, but I guess that's for you guys to decide. Next slide. On this kind of just on-site operations. So I think it's worth noting, and this is a big sticking point for me at least, and I know it is for LKQ. So when we talk about this facility, obviously the term junkyard's been thrown out there, salvage yard, what everybody wants to call it. But I think the difference in what LKQ is trying to accomplish and what, you look at a junkyard, you look at a salvage yard, a pick apart, there's a difference, right? And outside of, leave aesthetics aside, the junkyard, pick apart, public access goes into that, right? So, how do I say this nicely? The folks that are going into junkyards are probably not the folks that you want running around your town, right? Grabbing parts, doing this or that. LKQ doesn't allow that, right? There's no public access. There's no walk up customers. This is all contained within the building. So, nothing stored above 4 feet. There's a solid metal panel fence all the way around it. As Hannah mentioned, we understand that aesthetics are key. I think our renderings do a good job of showing you, what we're trying to accomplish, whether it's, the extensive landscape buffer, we plan to, we understand that screening is important, and we've done this in other markets and we get it, right? But I can tell you that what we're going to do is, what you're going to see on this rendering is exactly what we're going to do. It always, I know it's hard to picture, but I can tell you that, I don't know, how do I say this? We try to accommodate, at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for the project, and we have to also do what's best for the community. And we understand that, while landscaping may not be what is, always desired, if it's what's needed, that's what we'll do. So we'll go above and beyond. And I think based upon the request of what we've heard in the initial meetings, we've hopefully addressed that. This is an example of the facility I referred to earlier that we just completed in Denver, Colorado. So this is the one I referred to in Salt Lake City. And this last picture is one that we did outside of Phoenix. And so this is probably what everybody wants to see, right? What's this going to look like, Chris? You're telling me all this stuff, you're going to have screening. And this isn't, obviously from an aerial, but this gives you an idea of what the yard's going to look like. Now this yard is much larger. Keep in mind, you're up, at this point you're in a drone, you're well above it. So at eye level, you're not going to be able to see what's behind this fence. But this, I think the positive of this is showing you, this LKQ just doesn't throw things out there like what I will call a junkyard or scrapyard, right? I mean, this literally looks like an airport parking lot Everything is, every vehicle that is lined up, parked there that you see, they know exactly what that vehicle is. They know exactly what's on that vehicle. It's also worth noting that, up there at the top, you can kind of see where the remainder of the yard is yet to be filled. So, the process, the life process of this vehicle, is, once it gets dismantled and the parts are taken off, it goes into the yard. As that yard fills up, then, call it once a quarter, LKQ will come in and they will bring in, what we call a crusher. All right, so this crusher, it's not some big monstrosity. It's smaller than you think, and they'll usually they will put it in the middle of the yard, and then that's where they crush the vehicles for scrap, right? And ultimately that scrap is hauled off. So it's not piled up in the middle like you would see at other places. Like literally they crush the cars, they put onto a trailer, and they haul it off. And so the question is, when do they do that? How do they do that? A lot of that is driven by commodity prices. I know they always do it once the yard's full because they obviously don't have an option, but depending on where certain aluminum metals, where they may be, they could be crushing, but typically it's once a quarter. Like I said, from a noise standpoint, it's done in the middle of the yard, and we have studies that show that it's not any louder than, call it, an 18-wheeler driving down the road. So next slide. This is an example of screening. So this was the project in Salt Lake City. Obviously, the landscaping is young and it's had to come in. So I'm sure that looks a little bit different now. I think what's worth noting is that what'll be different about this project is that, we understand it's a concern. We understand line of sight from the interstate is a concern. So we've incorporated, call it probably it'll end up being a 3 to 5 foot berm. And then on top of that would be the 8-foot metal fence. So ultimately you will have, I should say, let's call it, 10 to 13 feet from line of sight from the ground. So hopefully that should help alleviate any concerns on that. Excuse me. This is just a picture of the inside of the warehouse. So as you can see, typical racking, parts stored. Next slide. And then this is a summary of which Hannah discussed earlier. And, the last part is talking about the, total project cost. So, between 35 and 40 million, which creates some, taxable value for the town and additional revenue for the town. Excuse me. Sorry. Next slide, please. So this is just showing where you can keep going. This is an outline of the site. Next slide. So this is inaccurate. This was the previous one. So to be honest, I don't think we probably need to see any more of these because we can go to the rendering. So yeah, we'll keep going. So this is just the layout of the building. That is the front elevation of the building. Same thing there. You can keep going. This would be coming. You can go back up, but just I'll give you some perspective. This is coming from if you're traveling down, I don't know if this is east or west, I apologize, down State Road 38 and just past the Case Tractor Service Company. This would be on your right hand side. That's that corner of the building. And then this is the view from the interstate. Good thing. And that's it. And if you want to show the updated renderings, I'm happy to walk you through those as well.
Yeah, there is.
I don't think there's much. I think the only one you've already shown most of them. There was a view requested from the pedestrian bridge, so we did our best to try to show what that would look like.
Oh, that one isn't. I'm sorry, that one's in a different folder.
It's okay. I mean,
Okay.
it's not that big a deal. So,
Okay,
all right.
thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the board have any questions?
Not this time.
Can you talk a little bit about how you selected this site and why the site is the right place for this project?
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to answer that question. So, like I said, we LKQ identifies a market, and we go into that market, and where we determine logistically where they want to be, right? So ultimately, where does this market serve? What are the other tertiary markets around it? And so that led us to what I'm going to call the Northeast Quadrant. Also has to do, so that's one component of it. Second component has to do with employee base. Can they get enough employees and can they get the right employees? Pendleton checks that box. So, we start looking for sites. Obviously, price matters, right? So, we all work under budgets and this one fit within that budget. So, location works, employee base works, price works. Topography is a big one, right? So on a site of this size, obviously you can imagine 113 acres, that's a lot of earth to move. So we prefer sites that aren't high, aren't too low, that are relatively flat with a little bit of grade. This has that. We like the access to the interstate. So that's obviously a big plus. We don't interrupt town operations. So we thought that, hey, this is great. We're only staying on this side of town. Works well for the residents. Trying to think if there's anything else. If I'm forgetting something, I apologize, but I think those are the big ones. Sorry.
Okay,
If I could just.
Counselor.
One of the things that I know that planning staff is concerned about, and perhaps some others are too, is that on a zoning change, it's a lot of times it's all or nothing. If it's becomes light industrial, it's light industrial for everybody. It runs with the land.
Correct.
One of the ways to alleviate any concerns with that are commitments made by the petitioner as far as what the project will look like as a condition of the zoning being changed. Sometimes that's done in just a commitment based on the documentation you've already presented. Is that something that I know you aren't LQW, but you wear the badge, as you said, that LQW, not LQW, the petitioner in this case is willing to commit to that the project will be substantially similar to the documents you've provided to the town and the comments you've made here this evening and last month about the project as a whole.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, I agree with you. That's a great question, right? Like you said, there's probably multiple developers that come in multiple towns and say, yeah, we're going to do this. And then, a year and a half later, they turn around and go, well, that's not what we described. Or that's not what you showed me. And I can tell you, like I said, that's why we tried to show the pictures of the Denver facility, right? Salt Lake, what we showed you on these renderings is what we're going to do. From what I would call the renderings along the interstate, bear with us. I can't, the trees probably won't look like that day one, but ultimately
This time of year either.
exactly. But ultimately, that is what it will look like, including a berm, including the fence. Hannah's mentioned that, we're going to try to preserve every tree possible, right? We want it to be screened. We understand that. Like, we're not trying to advertise, what goes on, what's stored behind there, right? I mean, it is what it is. I'm not sugarcoating it. It's a frame of a vehicle with some parts. So, I mean, to answer your question, yes, what we presented and what they have committed to, LKQ stands behind their work.
Can I ask something else then about that? Because I'm starting to read a little bit more in our ordinance about what the conditional uses are. And I'm concerned that commercial use for automobile and vehicle storage says no junk or salvage. It's only under the heavy industrial district that there are conditional uses for automotive storage, junk and damaged, junk and salvage yard facility. And I know you don't like the word junk, but the description or the definition that we have for junk is reclaimable material, inoperative vehicles in the process of being dismantled, processed, salvaged, stored, or bailed.
Yeah, I completely understand and I hear you, and I read it the same way. And I think, I guess I'll say, you tell me. So if you say, Chris, that sounds great, but instead of light industrial, you need to be heavy industrial, we understand that. So I think it's a case by case basis. I'm not disagreeing with what you just said as far as the definition of what you guys have in your literature. So ultimately it's a frame of a vehicle, call it a vehicle, call it an inoperable vehicle. I think maybe the difference versus a typical junk or salvage yard is that there's no motor, there's no components, there's nothing in there. This vehicle can't even be started. There's nothing to start. There's not a headlight, but I guess, the definition of what is considered junk or not junk, whether it's heavy industrial, light industrial, I'll follow the guidance of the town.
Couple of follow-up questions. How many total vehicles will be held in the gravel yard for processing?
You asked a tough one. Can I get back to you on that one? I don't know the exact number.
I thought there was a number.
I think last time,
last
5
time.
to 7,000.
yeah, I apologize. That's more of a Randy Smith question.
The follow-up question on that is what type of security is provided on that yard? With that many potential catalytic converters
Correct.
sitting there prior to recovery?
And that's a great
It's a great
question.
target.
Yeah, it's funny. And I asked that question to Randy specifically last time. So LKQ is actually currently having, so they've had some issues on some other, not their newer facilities, but older facilities where folks are, jumping the fence, trying to do exactly what you just described. So they've actually solicited 2 bids, and I don't know where they're at on this process. I'm probably telling you too much, but they're in the process of bringing in a third-party security company, and they have these infrared cameras essentially, right? That, it tracks everything down to, Randy said that in one of their facilities, they talked to one of the managers and he got a call at 2 a.m. because there was a dog that someone had thrown over the fence into one of their yards. Well, the infrared camera picked that up. They immediately get called, and then they have someone that shows up. So is it perfect? No, but that's where it's going, right? Because to your point, they can't afford to have folks, stealing from them as well. So there is, is it there yet? No. Would it happen at this facility? Yes. I mean, they're going to invest in the new projects that they're putting in. So.
Have you considered alternative sites?
We have, yes, we have. Like I said, this one, as Carol asked, and I explained, this one checks a lot of the boxes or several of the boxes. So we have considered other sites, but logistically speaking, this is the location, employment based. Those are big ones. And yeah, I guess everything's really big, but yeah, we have considered other sites. To answer your question.
Okay, I think the board, any more questions? This time I'll open it up to people that were in the immediate area that were surveyed or that were mailed response to and/or town residents. If you'd like to speak, I ask for you to come up to the podium, state your name and address. Please try to keep it down to about a minute, give everybody a chance. And again, if you do hear a comment and you have a light comment, I just ask you to maybe say your name, say I agree with the gentleman or lady that was up before, to give everybody ample time. So what's the matter, hand up there first?
So excuse me, my name's John Higgins. I'm an attorney. I represent Pendleton Development, which owns approximately 100 acres immediately to the west, adjacent to this potential development. My client, Pendleton Development, unequivocally objects to this LKQ facility. And the reason they object to this facility is because this town spent in 2021 substantial time, effort, formulating and crafting its master plan for development. This facility is completely incompatible with a residential use. So earlier, I think we saw a slide where there was a facility in California and a facility in Texas, excuse me, that were actually adjacent to LKQ facilities there. And I think it was towards the top. Yeah, there we go. So Google Street Map is a wonderful thing. So we can see with Google Street Map, not what the renderings show, not what what is promised, but what these facilities actually look like. And I don't have a fancy PowerPoint presentation, but I do have some screenshots from Google Street Map, which actually show from the road view what these facilities look like. So I would like to present these if possible.
Thank you. What's your time, John, please? For those of you, John's property, if you could go back to the other slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
Right there. would be to the left will be A1, A2, and A1.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be very brief. If you look through these, you can very clearly show from, this is where the residences are. If you just look across the road, you can see the junk, you can see the cars. This is not invisible from the street. The city in its master plan has expressed a preference for residential development in this area. What we're looking at here is incompatible with residential development. If this is granted, we might as well rip up this master plan, because we are not going to be able to develop residential property to the west, as we're in the process of doing, if we have a junkyard immediately adjacent to our east. Development is very important. Planned, intentional development is much more important. So for those reasons, we respectfully object. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John, you got one more for the staff over there.
Yeah.
Make part of the record.
Yeah.
Jared?
My name is Jerry Burmeister. I live at 406 West State Street. I've been a downtown business owner for 22 years. I'm here representing the Pendleton Historical Society, which we are all concerned about protecting our historical town. I have a short letter, if it's okay, if I have permission to read it.
I do have a copy of that.
I delivered a copy this morning, hopefully.
I was gonna make note of it. Go ahead.
Okay. You are in a position to ensure the best possible quality of life for those who call Pendleton home today and to those who will be attracted to our community in coming decades. To do that, you must deny the rezone petition for 5517 West State Road 38 under consideration at this meeting. The Historic Fall Creek Pendleton Settlement explores how our development patterns and quality of life are linked. As local preservationists, we are uniquely familiar with how we have shaped and built our environment and how it shaped us. Thankfully, our forefathers built in a compact and workable community centered around a commercial business district and a creek attracting people to its edge for centuries. This is a special way of life, evidenced by the inclusion in the National Registry of Historic Places. It is your charge to manage growth in a way that honors the principles and patterns that have served as well as thus far. Every time public input has been gathered by the town of Pendleton, which we done a master plan, I believe, back in 2021, the public states its preferences. We value our community, our hubs, connected by routes, safely navigated by foot or bike. We want to protect the character and value of our historic district. Funnel commence to our traditional downtown business district and have a peaceful escape to our park, safely accessed by bike or on foot. We are not anti-growth. We are pro-growth that expands on our unique advantages. The proposed industrial development does not do that. It is not in keeping with our growth patterns. It will not be for our community. The proposal states, as assessed in bold print in all capital letters, no public assets or walk-up customers. For such a large parcel so close to the core of our community, on a path closely adjacent to public investment in bike and pedestrian routes, and at our key gateway, this is an improper use and missed opportunity for smart growth. Instead of development that would link the state homes to its west to the traditional homes to its east, this development would be impossible and unsightly void in the middle. We can do better than this. The Historic Fall Creek Pendleton Settlement objects to the petition to rezone the subject parcel to light industrial because of the irreversible negative impact the zoning clarification would have on our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Along with that letter, there are maybe 10 or 12 extra signatures on the bottom of the letter. With that letter, I do have copies of letters from Anderson, Madison County Visitors Bureau. A letter from the Mystic Waters Campground, which is the former Pine Lakes. The ponds are. I have a letter from Card and Associates, as well as the Community Sports Wellness Center. That's our new wellness center here. Card actually owns and developed that. Community runs the facility. I also have a letter from Jennifer and Jeff Blake, who are just residents of the area. Basically, they all say the same thing. It doesn't fit the comprehensive plan or the growth that we had envisioned for that area in our UDO study and the comp plan. So I just want to bring those up since you did have a letter. Is there anybody else in the public?
My name's Janetta Spell, and I'm a resident here in Pendleton, have been for many, many years. My concern, and I'm sure this is a fine company, I'm not arguing with a lot of the presentation that you made, but quite frankly, it's not a fit. It's not a fit for a gateway into our town. I'm also deeply concerned about if this goes through, what like businesses are going to see that they're there, and are they going to want to join in? The town has always been very careful about our gateways. I don't think this is the right fit. And I hope you consider that. I've sat on the planning commission before. I know the hard decisions that you have to make and how much it affects the town of Pendleton. So I sincerely hope you do not accept this plan. Thank you.
Sir?
So Doug Heinlein, I live about 600 West. I can see this lot from my house, and I can tell you, like, even the Case dealership there, the lights at night, is casting a light all across our properties already. This thing is going to look like a Christmas tree. I mean, we're not going to see stars from Foster's Branch, 600, or any of our properties. And the idea that this is light industrial is just kind of comical to me. We're playing a semantics game. We're talking about putting a facility that breaks down thousands of vehicles in our neighborhood. It seems ridiculous that this is even discussed from my perspective. And I know most of the people that live, over there on 600 feel the same way. So sort of my comments.
Appreciate it's coming. Sir?
How y'all doing? I'm Nathan Davis. I am Education Station here in town. I actually live off 36, but again, I agree with certain ones that do point out this isn't really conducive to the gateway of our community. As a business owner, that is usually the place that people come in and go to downtown, especially ones that are from out of town. And I think that wouldn't be conducive to what our town's about. Also, I think, you brought up catalytic converters and things like that, things of that nature. Being residential, living right here, I think I would have a problem with that being right next door, especially because it would attract people that might be up to no good. They may not be able to break into their facility, but who's to say they won't go into the neighborhoods looking for, stuff. So I think that's something that should be weighed when this is considered. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm Craig Campbell, 239 South Main Street. I'm also the president of the Redevelopment Commission here in Pendleton and the vice president of the Historic Preservation Commission. I just want to reiterate what other folks have said. I'm not going to drone on about that. The RDC worked hard on that master plan along with Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn is one of the top companies in the country for doing this. They did trend work, they did homework, they did research, but most importantly, they did numerous focus groups with the people from Pendleton, with the commissioners, with the town council. They heard what those folks wanted. What you see on that plan is what the people of Pendleton want for that area. And it is a residential area. I don't have a problem with this company. I've actually visited their Plainfield office. I purchased some parts from them before. Fine company. If we can find another place to put it, let's put it somewhere else, as you suggested. It doesn't belong right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
Gary Brammer, I live 6228 Foster Branch Drive, which would be in the SF1. I understand that a $35 to $40 million investment in our community is big. I think the figure floating around town is it would bring 1.3 million in taxes to the town. We already have, I believe, in that area with the 4 neighborhoods that are out there and the other homes that are in that area. I think we already have an investment of well past that. So would this company, like the lady said, stop anybody else from coming there? Or would it bring something like a salvage yard? I think we have to be very careful about that because we've got some property there that could still bring big house, nice houses, housing, maybe a retail strip mall or something. And I'm just concerned that our investment will be wasted because no one else may want to follow this company into town. I do hope that whatever we can put in there would replace the tax revenue that might be lost by them not coming in. But I also want to look at what tax revenue we might lose if we do bring them in.
Good comments. Thanks, Gary. John?
Hi. Good evening. My name is John Lord. I live at 6982 South Lakeview Court. The reason I'm here is I have the same concerns as the Lord expressed. As well, I would like to know if we have, as a commission, if you have looked at other towns that they are currently located in. They talk about Plainfield, Avon. What are the concerns that those communities have with their facility? I'm also really concerned about the environmental impact. If you Google this company, you see they have over $6 million in EPA fines. Why? Because they've had problems in the past. And so we're concerned out that side of town, we don't have water, we're all on wells. So we don't want that contaminated also. We also worry about mystic water. So you've heard my other concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
We allowed to ask a question of Chris.
Sure. Could you come to the podium, please?
Sure.
But still, you state your name, your address, please.
Dave Cloud, 6311 South Fox Chase. Do you have a wildlife mitigation plan? I would assume that many cars sitting there would be an attractive home for coyotes and other critters. We have a lot of them around here. And
We do not. Not that I know of.
anybody who lives out on that side of town, you can hear them howling sometimes at night. A place where there's den sites for hundreds of them, I think would be a concern. Should be addressed if the project goes forward. Thank you.
Go. Can you just step to the podium, please?
My name is Janice Stamper and I live at 7242 South 600 West. My property butts right up to that. And that's not something I want to see out there, like these people say, our high-end homes out there, they mean something to us. And we don't want anything in that area that's going to degrade all those subdivisions that's already out there. And as far as this business not going that way, just the interstate and in town, well, we are part of the town, regardless of which way you go. And there's 2 major curves out there too. If you go out 38, they might have to go down to 13 to get on 69. And those 2 major curves in the past, even 30 years ago, have caused issues out there on State Road 38. So I'm hoping you don't approve it tonight. I'm 100% with all these other people as to say no.
Mike?
Yeah, my name is Mike Bond. I live at 6150 South Fox Court in Pendleton. I just had a couple of questions. I don't know if you guys have considered these, but one of my concerns is 50 years from now, they go out of business or they sell. Is there some kind of performance bond that they can be required so cleanup's done? Because once a problem happens, you see it with gas stations and stuff like that, then the community owns that problem. That is a huge expense to the community. The other one is there a way, if it is approved, that there can be some kind of underground barrier that would prevent anything from leaching down deeper into the soil? So if it was, if they did have a spill, it could be quickly remediated and the property not contaminated and contaminating other people's wells. Are inbound transports ever considered hazmat? Because I think the state, when you do a hazmat run, still runs them through State Street at times. I think it's part of the state logistics on that. They issue the route the drivers have to follow, and I think you'll see them come through town, which if some of these transports could be considered that because of fluids, could it be a hazmat situation coming through town? Because then they would come through town, because it'd be a shorter way. And then if you guys decide to approve this, can conditional approval be granted that it has to be what they say it is now? So they can't come back and say, well, we've changed our mind, we want to do this, then can we rescind the approval to protect the town and the community? All in all, I'm not for the project, but I just want you guys think about other issues that could come up. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Is that true about the hazmat coming through town versus interstate?
It's true, that's above my pay grade.
That's a good answer.
But it's established by the state. The state.
Right, the state does mark the route,
They do, and there's stuff.
depending on what's on the truck.
Yeah, depending on what the traffic is that day, they set the route.
And I mean, they're supposed to set it, I mean, if you look on like the typical trucking routes, they're not supposed to go through State Street because it's no longer a state road. It used to be many years ago, and they're supposed to reroute around, but if they know the area well enough, they'll just go through it because they know they can connect. So I'm not sure if at that level, that's an issue, or if that area of State Street is marked off. But I know that's been an issue with.
It might be since it's historical district, they don't think they route through the historical district.
Right, unless they still have it as a state road.
Especially wide Leatherhead.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions or for us, or the developer, or somebody? I can't see all the way around there.
Ooh. Hey, y'all. Jason Gaines, the owner of the property, along with my brother and sister. This is awesome that you're all here because we need feedback on whatever way it goes. So I'm just glad that we had this many people show up because it's kind of hard for me to get a hold of everybody to get what they're thinking. The one thing that I've heard at, which kind of answers a couple things is when I talk to this company, I really wanted what's best for the town because we've been here for 30, 40 years. I've owned them. My family has my father and so forth. We do have a farm background. We have Jason Filburn farm our property right now. Good people. And I want what's best. It's not something I'm trying, to get all this money, but I do have a mid-60-year-old brother and sister that are thinking about retirement, and they're thinking about why are we holding on to this for so long. But the main thing was what's best for it, because we've always been concerned what's best for Pendleton. So regardless of what happens here tonight, I love the feedback because I want to do what's best for the town. I thought it was a good idea, and I wish I would have had y'all talk to me so I can get a better understanding of what we need. So what I'm hearing is residential, right? Because that was in the master plan and was a little bit of commercial up front. And that was I'm all for it. But then they came along, LKQ came along and said, hey, we're going to build this building. And I've seen the buildings, I've researched the buildings. There's a lot of what if something goes wrong. You can't really gauge against what goes wrong, but you can put them to the fire of what they say they're going to build what they're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. The thing that I liked about it was instead of building a Tractor Supply over there, and we're talking about the gateway, the entrance way into this place, because it's a band on our property there where kind of the tree line is and so forth. I didn't want to put another Tractor Supply in there. No offense to Tractor Supply, but they got like 500 outdoor tractor trailers. Now you don't see them, you don't hear them, but they're there. So I was thinking, what can we put over here at a smaller building? And then they did the landscaping and had nice buildings and all this kind of stuff. And mentally, it doesn't sound good. I don't care what you say. I mean, carcasses, skeletons, cars, whatever. It just doesn't sound good. Even though they're lined up, it doesn't sound good. But you don't really see them, hear them.
smell them, taste them, or anything else, but you know they're in there. It's like the prison. I don't really like having a prison here, but you got a couple thousand people we don't probably really like, but I don't see them. It doesn't affect my golf game when I'm over there. So I want what's best for you. I'm asking for the guidance. The residential is fine by me, no offense. It's fine by me. But when they came along and they're going to move a building off and then we're going to have commercial on the front, then they're going to have a smaller footprint building. And then they're going to put this, is it berm? I keep saying berm. Okay. And I'm about 6'4". And then, so they're going to add another foot and then you can't see over from the highway. And plus when I'm driving 70 miles an hour down the highway, quite frankly, I'm not really looking what's going on in Pine Lakes or everything because I got it in trees over there. So I drive by, so I don't really see it. The entranceway I get is important, but there's 3 other corners. For some reason, it's up to the Gaines family to put a really nice thing on the corner up there, but we had 4 other corners. And I don't know if we really are in the historic district out there anyway. I didn't know that was a concern. It's the first I've heard about that. I didn't know that was historic over there. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a smaller building and they were going to use all the property because we want to sell all the property. But then the alternative to that is residential, right? Because that's what we all want. Well, the traffic that goes out of there is, what they say, box trucks, 30, 40 a day. I love that idea. I thought that is great versus a Starbucks in an hour and they get that for the whole day. And I know that bend up there, that blind bend is really bad up there. And I thought, well, this is the perfect fit for low traffic. Doesn't sound good with the car thing, but as far as the traffic and the taxes, and they're not asking for abatements and they're paying high wages. And some people are saying, well, is it 1 job or 10 jobs? It's 1 more job in the city. My buddy owns a restaurant down the south. He says, man, we need more people moving in our town. We need more building. We need to grow because everybody's my age. I'm a baby boomer. And so I thought it was just a great fit. I thought it was low traffic. But then on the flip side, let's say we want residential, right? Well, there's 113 acres. I think we could build several hundred houses out there. And we're worried about the cars that he's going to have in there. We're going to have people driving thousands of cars in and out of there on 38 and 600. And then we're going to, you know, have all these kids going to our schools and they're going to be affordable housing. And we're going to bring down a lot of people from Anderson and we're going to have a really diverse crowd moving in, new neighbors. And it's great for the town, but the traffic. And then we're concerned about the lighting, you know, all the lighting, well, if you get a couple hundred houses and then the Urbans development, they want to build a couple hundred more houses or apartments or whatever they're building, but residential again. What's our population? 4,500?
Well,
about
within the city.
We're going to grow real quick and we're going to be driving a lot. And if I'm living over here in these beautiful houses over there in Foster's Branch, it's going to take me a while to get in the morning to get out to the highway or my kids to get out to school. And we talked about executive homes. That was one thing that was kind of passed. I was all for that. I couldn't find anybody to build executive homes and I asked the people who lived in these nice homes, would they trade their house and move next to the highway or the paved lake or the Bain Welker? And they're like, no, I'm good where I'm at. I get that. So I think we got to make a big decision in the town that we can go with something like this, which is super low traffic, high taxes each and every year after year. Employment, the building is beautiful. What's inside is really hard to get, but I don't see it. I'm not going to see it. No one's going to see it unless you put a drone up on it. And as far as driving by, hopefully you're going to see a nice fence line and everything else. But if we put houses there, we're going to see a lot of light and we're going to have a lot of people and we're going to have a lot of people driving up and down 38 and 600 and through the town from all these new people that are coming. So you gotta I'll go with whatever side y'all want.
Can it not stay farm? Can you not find a farmer that willing to continue?
Not, well, and honestly, it would be a perfect world. If I could find someone to pay me what they're paying me for farmland, I would do it all day long. Like I say, unfortunately, I have a brother and sister that are a little bit older than me. I got 3 in college and they're killing me. I mean, they're killing me. And unfortunately, it is the right time. Like I said, we've been there for 30, 40 years. I love my farmer, Jason Filburn family, just good people. We had Scotty, before that, Elvin Scott was a guy down here in town for years and years. I'm all for it, guys. You just got to tell me what you want, but we got to make a commitment. We either go with something like this, which has a great big benefit, or we go with what's planned, and it's affordable housing, but with all those benefits, you bring in more kids and you bring in more parents and you get 2 cars per family. And then if the urbans build, there's more people and more traffic. And then you're gonna, I just thought they were a good fit. I really did. The car thing, it's kind of hard to get over, but like I said, the berm thing, the fence line, and they're pretty, the building looks fantastic. And again, I think people are comparing some of their stuff that they purchased, which is not so pretty and not so good, and worried about the, what's left over. But again, the fluids, again, because they're heavy EPA type people. What's the word I'm looking for that you all are? Eco-friendly. They're all eco-friendly like that, but I have all the same concerns as you. I've been here for a long time. I want everybody to be happy. I know I can't make you all happy, right? Because we just can't make everybody happy, but I just think it's a really good fit versus the alternative. Now, if the alternative is what it is, I'll find someone to go out there, but how long is it going to take you to build your project?
14 months.
12 to 14 months. How long do you think it's going to, if Urbans and me on that big old property, how long do you think it's going to take to build houses? And how many of those people are going to be driving out in my property and driving out on the road? And it's just, I thought this was a much cleaner, expedited, quieter project.
Say something real quick,
Absolutely.
just to you personally, that you asked how long, and I would say this plan is 18 months old. It was passed by this body in August of last year, or 2021. And so it's new. It hasn't been marketed and shopped, and we haven't heard as a community from you and your vision for your property. And
Right.
I think I would want a chance. I would ask this body from the microphone to give this a chance. It's a good plan. The community believes in it. We built it. We can make everybody happy, but it's going to take longer. Give us more than 18 months.
I mean, no, what I'm saying is if I sell it and the builder comes in, he's going to take years upon years upon years to build out the neighborhood. And so the patience doesn't run with me. I mean, it runs with, Foster's Branch and some of the other areas. Do they want that fight?
We've got time.
Okay, and that's the feedback I want.
Comprehensive plan is a long-range plan. It's not, this is what we're doing today. This is a long-range plan. There are mitigating plans for traffic diversion on Heritage Way South and North. So there are ways, there are plans as growth comes to divert that traffic to the north and the south, so they're not going through town.
No, I'm not, I'm saying if A1 up top and A1 here and A1 here build all houses, and I live in Foster's Branch, or I'm coming from this side down to get onto the highway to go to work or what have you, I just thought that would be a lot of traffic, because you're going to ask a whole bunch of people to move in your neighborhood on all types of different houses. Affordable housing is probably going to be the most, and your population in this, our town here is going to grow, and that could be a really good thing. Or if like I said, I'm open to whatever you guys said. I just thought that he's gonna build a plan because it's owner occupied, which is very rare to find someone to build something of this magnitude by, because they have the use.
Jason,
So, yeah,
I don't think, even though it's earmarked residential right now, I don't think we're discussing the traffic flow of the residential housing or anything tonight.
okay.
Okay,
But I was just giving the gist of what I was
Understand
thinking,
that.
but I totally, absolutely. So, that's pretty much what I had to say. I think that we're saying we don't want one thing, but then the other thing comes in here. I will say that the company that did it was a fine job, but in the meeting that we had when we first did the actual study was that, we're going to be open to new things. The last thing that was on the board is that, some people didn't agree with a retention pond or this on their property last time. So they said they were open. I'm open as well. I am. I just, I thought it was a good deal. It's up for you guys to decide. They are a fine company and they are good people and they've worked real hard with the planners. That's it.
If I might chime in one more time, excuse, real quick. Back when we were really focused on the business park out there, especially the RDC, because it's our TIP district. It was the main TIP district. We all kind of decided, and you could say, well, that was a decision you made, not the rest of the town, but to move away from the industrial side of what we're doing out there. We would like to have more professional things coming into. Nothing wrong with industrial stuff. We've got enough industrial stuff out there. We are really looking for professional stuff, the medical field, the legal fields, things like that. We don't really want to go in a direction of industrial any longer. And just to be clear, there was never talk of low-income housing to be put out there. I don't know where that came from.
Affordable housing.
Affordable. We're talking about executive homes, high-end executive homes out there.
Right. And that was, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm Sam Carozis. I hate public speaking.
You'll do
I'll
fine.
preface with that if I bumble and stumble a little bit. So I've been working with Mr. Gaines here for, over a year and a half. Some of the things he's recited tonight is off of data that I've helped him pull. So the comment on the executive housing. So Jason's comment on low income housing is there is no demand for executive housing in a spot like this in Pendleton. So if you were to take this map and zoom out, Indiana is a state that historically has grown concentrically from the inside out, sort of, in concentric circles. You would see communities, McCordsville and Fortville, that would need to develop far before this level of housing was needed in Pendleton. And if it's not too late to go to the other slide on how a development like this would impact traffic versus how housing would impact traffic. We had an estimate up here of 100 houses on 114 acres. You'd be looking at upwards of 400 houses. If you go a higher density component like low income housing, those developments have 12 to 15 units per acre. So you'd be looking at well over 1,000 units, all of which are family oriented units. The other thing I'd speak to is the commission here. You all do have, and the town attorney can speak to this more intelligently than I can, but you do have the ability to apply certain conditions to the approval here tonight. So lighting was raised. There's new high-tech lighting that points directly at the ground and isn't visible past 20 feet. You can mandate that they install that level of lighting at their facility. We had comments on wastewater. We had comments on the environmental impact. This is a green company. We hear what they're going to do stripping cars, and yes, that sounds like a junkyard. First reaction is that sounds like a bad thing for the town. Go to their website. You see videos of mayors of the towns and cities that they do business in speaking on their behalf of how great this company is to work with. They partner with the community. Jason's comment on this being an end user, that does not exist in development. Indiana is a speculative development state, all right? Developers build large speculative warehouses here with the idea that if you build it, they will come. That means you cannot apply those conditions to those developers. We're building a shell building, hoping that we'll attract the right tenant to this space. That tenant can change every 5 to 10 years. This is a company that's going to be here for 50+ years. They will partner with the community. The other thing I'd speak to is the tax base. Industrial is taxed at 3%. That number, that $1.5 million, 1.3, 1.4 million, that one of the gentlemen tonight threw out of that tax base, that's an annual number that this would add to Pendleton's tax base. That's improvements to the fire department. That's improvements to the police departments. That's improvement to the school without adding families to those schools. That positively impacts everybody in this room. I just ask everybody to consider that. There's no impact on wastewater. There's no impact on traffic counts. This could be considered a win for the community. If we get past stripping down cars and view the way this company actually operates, this could be a win for this community. So that's the only thing I'd say. And, you can absolutely apply conditional approvals, right? Some of the things they're saying they're going to do, you can hold them to that. You can say, we approve this conditionally based on you sticking to X, Y, and Z standards. So.
Thank you. Mark?
Go ahead.
I'm Leah Grovia, actually, and I'm in real estate, here at the Real Estate Pros in Pendleton, Keller Williams. And just had a quick comment to make about the speculation on what would actually happen to this agricultural land. I feel like we're talking about all of these houses in terms of affordable housing and nice homes and all of these different speculations, and we don't even know. I think taking it in a case-by-case basis, focusing on what's at hand and then what's to come next. We don't know if it'd be zoned R1, R2, R3, multi-residential, because we're not there yet. So we can't even speculate on what that looks like. And what if it stays ag? Maybe it's best that that piece of land remains ag. We don't have to change it to anything. So keeping that in mind, I think, is important. I also wanted to let you know that I heard the gentleman say that this is like an airport parking lot with 5,000 to 7,000 cars. If you're on the bridge that's beautiful, that's going to connect to that land, if it is developed, you're going to see an airport parking lot in his terms. And I'm not sure that's what we want either. And my last thing I wanted to say is that in the comprehensive plan, at one point it was stated that we promise that small town charm and bold modern thinking can come together in a way that feels completely natural. And I just wanted to reiterate that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mark? Take Mark for his last, this Mark will be our last comment from the audience.
Wow. Okay.
You're at the high pay grade now. but-
There we go. Mark Farr, 5429 West 132. I always come to these meetings with no intent to talk and I always end up talking. I just had a question for the developer for the building. Is it a 12-hour shift job? Are there tow motors out there at night beeping?
No, sir, it's 8 to 5. It's Monday through Friday.
The shells of the cars, the skeletons, I kind of like the name the carcasses. They don't have any wiring in them or upholstery or.
No, there's nothing combustible that's in.
Okay, because the squirrels have eaten my ABS brake lines because they're soybean based. So if there's wiring and stuff like that, the harnesses, that's going to be a rodent attractor. And I'm just asking these questions because I've been hearing them. So, and the other thing was lighting. So light pollution, in my opinion, is a big deal. I live across that side of the field and I can see the lights of that intersection. If I owned Mystic Waters, which it's not Pine Lakes anymore, Mystic Waters, is that something tonight you guys make the recommendations of the lighting and instead of an 8-foot fence, it's a 12-foot fence or?
Not necessarily tonight,
Okay.
Mark, but it will come if and when it does come to preliminary plat approval, that details will come out then.
Yeah, I just know light pollution is an issue for the area, and as chief of police, I've seen the drawings of possible residential of that area, and it's always amazed me. I would not build my high-end home next to the interstate. If I had the money, I'd be in the woods somewhere. But I'm not for or against. I just had those questions because people were asking them, and I think they made sense to know. Coyotes are an issue out by our place, Dave. But it's also a fence thing, and it's not an attractant for them if the rodents aren't gonna be there. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a couple online
Okay.
comments. One of them was Marilyn Bluewell, who just wanted to agree with some of the statements from like Gary Brammer, Dave Cloud, John Lord about opposing it, and I'm concerned about the EPA soil, water. And then also Kelly Rowell has some of the same concerns over just the EPA issues, maybe fluids leaching into the water. and soil. And that's it.
All right. Okay, we've heard a lot of comments tonight.
Tim, may I, can we rebut a couple of those or respond
Sure.
to those?
Sure.
Okay. Some of you may know me, Michelle Skaggs now. I was Michelle Kirby back in the day. I graduated from here. I love this place. My dad still lives here. He's a 62 graduate. And I can come in this building and hug half the people I see because I'm still that close with these people. I live in Fishers because there's nothing for me to do around here. There's not a lot here. But on the weekends, I bring my kids down here because it's beautiful. It is. My son wants me to drive him, he just got his license, to a little bagel shop, I think Sophie's or Sophia's or something. That's where we go on the weekends when it's nice. So I would not come up here and present something I think wouldn't be good. I can see, because I'm in Fishers, it's coming. I think all of you know that it's coming. I've been reading all the comments online. It's coming. And Pendleton has an opportunity to do something with the land that arguably not one real estate, anyone regarding residential has contacted Mr. Gaines about putting residential anything along that interstate. But I'll tell you, by my exit, 2 exits up, all that land just got bought and they're putting residential there. And it's apartments or condos, very small ones. And it's coming. So my fear is now that you have an opportunity, Planning Commission has an opportunity to see what this is going to be. And if they say, well, it's too soon for LKQ, I think the problem is going to be when everything comes here, there's no LKQ. They're gone. They're going to go to another town, another city close to here because they need something here. And those 80 employees are going to go to that town's restaurants. They're going to go to that town's boutiques. They're going to do everything in that town. And the people here who have businesses are going to continue to suffer. And I think that as you're seeing this moving forward, I think it's important to look at it. And I understand that if you have a comment card, are you going to comment on that card? No, unless it's something bad. And then you're going to give them heck on that comment card, wherever you are. So today, I think these are the people who, yes, you strongly might oppose this, but I don't know that you thought about all the information and done all your research. No one, hardly anyone in this room or that room came in here a month ago because they weren't concerned. The people who got notices, hardly anyone came in here, only because it got bumped because they had a couple questions. Are we here today? They had an opportunity to pass this, but they wanted more pictures. So here I feel that Pendleton has a great opportunity. If you don't want to jump on it, so be it. But these fields are not going to last as fields much longer. And I don't want what's going on in Fishers with all of this new community building of tiny homes and apartments and condos is going to take over Pendleton. And that's just my personal feeling from being here. And as far as the EPA, sure, they've been fined. What do you think what's going to happen when they buy a company that is a junkyard and then clean it up. Do you think it's going to get cleaned up in year one? No. They're in there cleaning it up, and if they can't clean it up, they're going to do what they can to get it closed. Why do you think this new facility is going in here? Because it needs to have a clean facility. This facility is being made numerous times here in the US. They're international. They pass all of Europe's requirements, which arguably are even more stringent than any of our states. To be in California, Colorado, Utah, Arizona with this facility, and for them to not have any EPA issues and to go above and beyond what the EPA requires, it's amazing. And so I think the short-sightedness is a challenge, and I think that you should just open up and consider something because something's coming, and I think this is going to be the best that you can get.
I think we're considering something, just not this. And I'll see, that's all I got to say.
Can I have staff clarify
Yes.
a couple things? Just feel that need to clarify some of the processes involved with this, just for you when you make your decision. As a board, you tonight have the opportunity to provide a recommendation. You can make a favorable recommendation, you can make a neutral recommendation, and you can make an unfavorable recommendation. Or you can also continue it as you did last month. If you do make a recommendation tonight, whether it's unfavorable, favorable, or neutral, it will go to town council. It does not require a favorable recommendation to move on to town council. Town council can then take your recommendation, certified recommendation, and they will then make a decision on their own whether they feel that this free zone application is fit or not. If they do approve, whether you recommend on your recommendation or not, this parcel, 2 parcels will become light industrial. LKQ, we work with Chris. We've had meetings, we've had discussions with him. He has done a fine job representing LKQ. He's very respectable, and he has done a great job trying to meet the needs of the community or the UDO that we've established in 2021. That being said, there are also other plans that are in your Google Drive. It's the thoroughfare plan that has been adopted to the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is there. The access control management or access management and control ordinance is in there, as well as the bike and pedestrian plan and the thoroughfare plan, which all are plans that have been developed by this community. As a planner, as your representation, as your staff, those plans need to be looked at and compared to this proposal to see if those themes, those goals, objectives, those criteria have been met, in regards to this proposal. If this moves on and gets passed by town council without any commitments by your board, this will be your last opportunity to even have any say in what takes place on this land once it becomes light industrial. Even if LKQ moves down the road and chooses not to move forward with the purchase, which is not taking place yet. If they decide that another site looks more favorable to them, it is still going to remain light industrial. So we just want to make sure that you're aware that that is a course that would take place, as well as they would not, and that's one thing I wanted to clarify, they will not submit a primary plat. They do not have to submit a primary plat. This is a commercial piece of land that would only require a site development plan. According to the UDO that you passed a year ago in 2021, that goes in front of staff and our technical review committee. So I just want to make sure that you are fully aware of what the next steps would look like and how things could shake out. So I just wanted to get that clarified for you all.
Can I make a clarification too, that the only thing we're talking about tonight is rezoning
That is correct.
property.
It is
Okay.
purely based on the land use and how you see that these two parcels are best utilized, what the best use of this land is. And if you foresee it to be light industry, then that is something that you can recommend to town council. If you see it best utilized to complement our comprehensive plan, whether it's a neighborhood-oriented retail and office space that the comprehensive plan outlines. Our interchange master plan has a keystone development, which is the most northern part of that parcel, which they did shift that back about 25 feet to give about 3 acres for a business to come in and for future development. But it also does lend about 100 acres left to a stone yard. That will not be seen as a benefit on your tax roll. So there's some things I'm probably getting into a little bit more than I should, but as staff, felt like that.
Thank you, Denise.
I just wanted to make one last point. I appreciate it. I know everybody took the time to come here. The one thing I want to say is that, I know there's some comparisons of older facilities, and I think that's the vision of LKQ. It's probably not really comparing apples to apples and what this new facility is going to look like. So if you do go to Google, if you go drive it up facilities, you're going to see something that's probably considered an eyesore. I think that's the goal of LKQ and these new prototypes is to eliminate. So just wanted to point that out. And like I said, thank you all. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Chris.
And Mr. Nelson, who presented the last time, had just also made an online comment about some of the EPA fines and such were not at any new facilities. They were all the old mom and pops that they had bought up.
Makes sense. Good. With that said, Chris, we'll give you guys a pat on the back. You do have a nice presentation, nice company. I think you're upfront with what you want to do. We've had a lot of comments from the crowd tonight. Unfortunately, there's a lot of negative comments there, as well as the letters that come in to the council. I think a lot of the problem is it's not fitting in with our comp plan, our thoroughfare plan, Keystone Development Plan. It is labeled residential now. We spent a lot of time and money and effort dividing that up out there. It might be too early to tell what's going to go out there one way or another. To your comment, something will go out there someday, I think. I don't know if it's going to be LKQ. I don't think it'll stay farm ground forever. Those people that own farm ground anywhere around central Indiana right now, the developers are coming after them like wolves. You can see what's happening down at the locale down there. It's just exploding. And guess what? We're next. So it's a big fight. It's tough. See what happens out there. But ultimately, our job here is to protect our town and the people in the town from what happens. So with that said, and Denise's comments, I'm going to recommend an unfavorable recommendation with conditions. Those conditions will be, I want you to help me on this, Jeff. One is,
Commitment.
yeah, you have to, if and when this does go to town council, which is beyond us, if we vote no tonight, it can go to town council, but
It will go.
it will go to town council. But we want the conditions to be that everything must be under light industrial requirements.
One of the things that's been committed tonight is that the activity, and what will happen mechanically is the town, assuming there's no withdrawal of the petition, no matter what recommendation you make tonight, an ordinance will be drafted and put in front of the town council. If the ordinance is passed, the zoning petition, the change occurs. They would change from ag to LI. The ordinance itself will list conditions and commitments that are made. So that will be actually recorded and therefore run with the land. The commitments have been made tonight by the petitioner that the activities, the building will be substantially compliant with the both the verbal commitments and the written commitments that were made. So that will be presented for that
In
would
the
be
ordinance.
in the ordinance. That'll be, see Exhibit A. And it'll be the rest of that. So that would be if the council would adopt that. And by the way, the council, we kind of, we get into different things and we decide, you know, will the council send it back to us? They can, unlike UDO changes. I think we did move it around on UDOs, but on zoning map changes, it's a binary yes or no. They must act on what you send. So the commitments that have been made today will be in that ordinance.
Okay, so as long as those are documented in that ordinance, that will go to the council. It's my recommendation that we go with an unfavorable recommendation tonight to the town council.
You need a second for that?
I need a second, please.
I'll second that, please.
All right. And I can have a roll call vote, please. And remember, with your vote, the yes vote means you agree to the unfavorable recommendation, correct?
That's right, sir.
Correct. Thank you.
Cheryl Rainey Hunt,
I give a strong yes.
Brad Valentine,
Yes, unfavorable?
Kyle Whitehorn,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Jenny System. Yes. Andrew Holloway.
Yes.
Okay, it's 7-0 unfavorable with the conditions presented tonight. So, petition is
Been acted upon. The recommendation will
Been acted upon.
it'll be certified tomorrow to the town.
town council.
When will the town council?
The statute mentions the next meeting, which will be the 9th. However, is it the 9th or the 10th?
Next Thursday.
9th. And but they do have the option to, it could be withdrawn. The town council could also continue that up for 90 days, up to 90 days. If they take no action at all, your unfavorable would carry the day.
Like to recess the meeting now for 15 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's it too.
Yes, it's just rules updating.
Oh, she's got it too.
Nothing. Yeah.
Okay, the only thing we have left to do tonight is the update planning commission rules. Anna,
Oh, yes, so I was able to find, as Jenny said, the red line rules, so I sent those out if you were able to take a look at those and see what I did change. Just some clarification on what planning commission does, no longer do site plan reviews or secondary plats unless it's requested by the petitioner. Another thing was the updating code references, so we reference our old I guess, whatever UDO we kind of had beforehand. Now it's the Unified Development Ordinance 2021. And then the Zoom being an acceptable form of applicant participation. So is there any questions on what I've
For the
updated?
applicant,
Mhm.
that they could come in on Zoom. Okay.
Mhm, yeah. Anything I missed or anything?
So like regarding site plan review, do we have a technical review committee established?
Yes, yes, it's the supervisors of all of our departments, so storm, water, electric, and street. And then we have our stormwater engineer from Banning, Joe Miller, he's on that as well. And then, of course, Mark and No Nine are not, you know, they're not really like super technical, but if anything comes up that they have concerns with, like I know No Nine when the Starbucks development was going in, he was concerned about the turning radius for his fire trucks, stuff like that. So those are all the people. And then anyone additional, when they ever need, we can just contract out on the behalf of the petitioner. Mhm.
You need a vote to accept the changes.
I'll make a recommendation, we accept the updated PC rules as submitted. Red line outlined in our Google Drive, so second. All those in favor of PC rules updates as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And thank you for that. It's really helpful to send it our way. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And I mean,
I don't know who of you did it. but I
good,
really appreciate
good
it.
points and knowing
we
going
did.
forward for, you know,
How about the
making
red
sure.
line thing that was sent to us?
Right, so you can see what's
Okay.
changed kind of live, so anytime we do that again, I'll make sure to do that.
Any other questions tonight?
So what's the update now on the Google Drive? What's our best course of action?
If you can't access it, with what you already have now, let me know if it's kicked you out. And we can probably share the temporary one that we have right now.
Yeah, it's been shared, yeah. So if you
Okay, it has,
that email, just open that up and you can connect to the new one. Right now, it's shared to me, so I'm able to add new documents to the original Google Drive, but my storage space is low, is what my computer's saying. So as long as I can stay underneath that, we'll continue to put them on books.
and if you can't access something and you want to look at it and you can't seem to get it, just call me or Denise and we'll send it over to you via email.
Yeah, we can do that. And then I could resend you that invite as well.
Yeah,
Because
could
I
you do
think there's
that,
a tax on that, or a time lapse on it.
Yeah, Carol.
We might have
Other
a great.
questions or comments? First
Anything
meeting?
on our Google, you know?
Actually,
This is your first meeting?
I sell board management software and you guys might want to look into that.
Not
Not while
That-
I'm here.
Yeah.
I see.
Not while I'm
New
here.
business. I get it.
Is this your first meeting you attended?
Here, I actually live in Madison County, so I've just been to plenty of those planning commission meetings, yeah.
So I'm gonna get a little tough sometimes.
They do, yeah.
Well, appreciate-
Always interesting though.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Always very helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else, folks?
As always, that's enough. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.